Hello and welcome to the Indiana University Press podcast. I'm your host, Laura Bache. Today I'll be speaking with poet Norbert Cross about how the events of 9/11 affected him. Norbert was a professor of English at Long Island University and was getting ready to leave for work when the World Trade Center was attacked. He wrote one of his most important poems, Prayer to Walt Whitman at Ground Zero, in response to the tragic events of that day. The poem will be included in the book Songs in Sepia and Black and White, which comes out next year from IU Press. Norbert, thanks for being on the show.
Oh, I'm glad to do this.
I think we all remember where we were and what we were doing the moment the World Trade Center was hit. So can you share with us how you found out about the attack?
Sure. I was preparing to leave the house to go to the CW Post campus of Long Island University to teach, and was just about ready to go, and the phone rang, and it was my daughter, who was in her senior year at Butler University, and she said, "Daddy, do you have the radio or TV on?" And I said, "No, I turned the radio off a little bit ago." And she said, "Well, turn on the TV. Some planes have crashed into the World Trade Center." And so I turned on the radio and started to listen, and I drove toward campus. I used to go back ways to just stay collected and get myself together and to avoid some of the traffic. But I could see whenever I saw a car that everyone was listening to the radio. And when I got back out to the main road, there was a woman who was being interviewed. This was an all-news station. She was on the top of a nearby building. And as I said, I could even see more clearly that everybody was listening to one of those two all-news stations in the New York area. And this woman said, "Oh, my God, the building is coming down. The building is coming down." And I could just see the faces of the people. It was very, very dramatic and powerful. And when I pulled up in the parking lot, there were people standing next to their cars on cell phones calling, trying to reach relatives they knew worked in the World Trade Center. So, yeah, it was a very, very dramatic day. We were about 24 miles east of the World Trade Center.
And then so after 9/11, you wrote Prayer to Walt Whitman at Ground Zero. Will you read the poem for us now?
Sure, and I just want to say that there was, so people understand it, but my wife taught 8th grade in the Manhasset Public Schools on the North Shore, and one of her colleagues lost her son who was to be married in about 6 weeks, and so we went to his memorial service instead of his wedding. One colleague lost a nephew. One of her students lost a father. There were 2 brothers in our community of Roslyn Heights, one a policeman, one a fireman, married with children, and they died, and we went to their memorial service at the nearby firehouse. One of my American poetry students lost her fiancé, and there was a Long Island University Brooklyn student from Syria who was lost. So that all comes up in the poem, as well as some references to some of Whitman's most well-known best-known poems. It's Prayer to Walt Whitman at Ground Zero. Come back, Walt Whitman. We need you now in the hour of our grief. Come back, camarado, wind your way back to Ground Zero where you belong. Wrap your arm around the shoulder of a fireman who lost his best friend. Tell the policemen how brave their brothers were at the moment of collapse. Rub your fingers between the ears of the dog that is sniffed hour after hour for the smell of human flesh. Stand at attention when workers find in the rubble the body of a brother. Amble over to the armory and say a word to long lines of those who have pictures of their loved ones pinned to their chests. Tell the husband how beautiful and good his missing wife is. Tell the wife how courageous her husband was to help his colleagues. Promise the sister you will hunt with her for her lost brother, just as you hunted for Brother George at Fredericksburg. Hold steady the mother and father who lost their son weeks before he was to marry. Hug the student from Queens who, after her class in the suburbs, rode your word ferry across time and space, sobbed to her teacher they had found the body of her firefighter fiancé. Comfort the family of the Brooklyn student who came to this country from Syria for asylum and will now return home only in spirit. Guide to sanctuary the refugees who, white ash and ghostly powder disfiguring their faces, hobbled across the Brooklyn Bridge toward your old haunts. You who know so well the underbelly of this city and the pulse of the people. Come back to smoking Mannahatta, Father Walt, where you walked the streets with immigrants from many lands, and rode the omnibus and listened to the Italian opera and the American folk song and applauded the singer and rode the ferry back to Brooklyn. Convince us the lilac will blossom again and release its fragrance into the air. Help us believe the mockingbird will trill and caper, the hermit thrush sing, and the children smile, shout, and play in the parks again without looking up. Come back and implore the wounded moon to pour her mysterious ministrations on us. Petition the splendid, silent sun to come out and shine long while wounds heal. Teach us a language that rises into prayer as we lift one another. Help us not to fear our grief as we commemorate the thousands lost. Show our leaders how to be judicious and strong, compassionate and unflinching. Look over us as we read the poem prayers that inform our resolve to become larger than before, open-hearted, strong, wise, patient. Keep waiting for us in the grass that grows beneath our boot soles. So that's
Thank you,
the
Norbert.
poem.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. It's in the long line of Whitman, which I don't usually write in. It's a homage to him, of course, and a prayer to him, because in so many ways for me, he is and was the spirit of that place. He was born on Long Island in Huntington Station, about maybe 12 miles east of where we live. That house is still standing there, and it's now the Walt Whitman Homestead, a beautiful museum. You know, and he lived in Brooklyn, and he did go over to Manhattan, and he worked there as a journalist for several newspapers. So you know, it was because of Walt Whitman and the great Delta blues singer Robert Johnson that I started to write poetry after moving away from New York. I mean, after moving away from Indiana and moving to the New York area.
And as we talked about a little bit earlier, in the poem you include some details of a few personal tragedies that happened to people you knew. So was it difficult for you to write about them?
Well, I mean, in some ways it was difficult because it necessitated working through a lot of pain and hurt, you know, and that sort of thing. But on the other hand, it was positive too, because whenever you can write about something and write about it well, there is a kind of healing that begins to take place. So that it was an important part, in a way, of my journey of trying to get beyond that tragedy. But it was everywhere, you know, around us. And the Manhasset, where Catherine, my wife, taught 8th grade, is called a bedroom community, and many, if not most of the parents actually work in Manhattan, and a number of the parents of her students did work in the Twin Towers.